I'm Malika. I'm a transformational life and mindset coach. I went through this really big transformation. I didn't really know who I was. What led me to this breakthrough was actually a breakdown. I discovered who I was, what my mission was. We're all human. We all have bad days and nobody's perfect. The key here is having a plan. The most big one that I used to do a lot, compare myself with everybody. Stop following these people. I stopped checking my phone the first thing I did in the morning. The same thing with the night routine. So I put away my phone like an hour before I want to go to sleep. We think that we gotta do these big things in order to change, to heal. But actually, all we gotta do is make the right choices every day. You don't have to change your career or do this big thing. You gotta start with tiny things, and that will accumulate and turn into a mountain itself. Consistency is key here. My best advice or my mantra would be
So, welcome, Malika. How are you today?
good. Thank you so much, Emily, for inviting me on the podcast. This is my first time being a guest, so
Yay!
today is very special for me.
Well, I'm so glad that the Moody Girl podcast is the first podcast that you're going to be a guest on. And I feel really privileged. And I hope the audience at home feel really privileged as well, because, you know, I've been listening to your podcast. I've been keeping up with your content and I find it really helpful. So, you know I'm actually not in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, but I still very much relate to everything that you're talking about in your podcast, which is called Healing in Your 20s. So let's start with, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your story? How did you end up helping women to rediscover who they really are?
Awesome. So, first of all, let me just introduce myself really quickly. So, I'm Malika. I'm a transformational life and mindset coach, and I am an EFT practitioner as well. This is a practice I really like to do with my clients. And basically, I help my clients heal through somatic work, through meditations and inner child work. This is all the things that I really love to do. But how did I get here? I had to first go through this process myself. So
Mm.
I once was, I always say that I went through this really big transformation. I didn't really know who I was. I was shaped by the conditioning of where I grew up, all the different things they made me be. They labeled me in some ways. And there were so many people telling me what I need to do, what I need to be like. And when I got married and I moved far away, I had the chance to really ask the question, who am I? Who do I want to be? And what is my mission? Because that noise was gone now and I could actually listen to myself. And what led me to this breakthrough was actually a breakdown. And I was like, what am I doing with my life kind of thing? And which is why I love breakdowns, because I always think they have the potential to be a breakthrough. So I'm like, yes. So yeah, when I had my breakdown, I went into this journey of self-healing. And I started a never-ending journey basically. And I discovered who I was, what my mission was, because once I felt really good, I was like, I need to help more people feel this way. This
Mm.
is my mission. I need to spread the message. I need to guide other girls into what I have discovered. So I took it as a mission. So it's not even I want to do this as a business or I want some clients. No, I really think that this is my mission, which is why I put so much free content out there, because
Mm.
I'm not afraid of sharing. If you want one-on-one, it's great, but otherwise I am always open to share whatever needs to be shared, whatever comes to me at the moment. So yes, this is what I do.
Wow, I mean that sounds incredible. And I think as well, just to touch on the fact that you do have free resources, I think that's really important. It's really accessible. Not everyone has the ability to have a one-to-one coach straight away. I absolutely think that it's a really worthwhile thing to do. And investing in ourselves is a really amazing experience when you actually start to put belief in yourself. And you say, actually, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm not going to invest in stocks. I'm not going to invest in a new car. I'm not going to invest in a new house. I'm
Yeah.
going to invest in me. So there is a lot of kind of conversation around that as well. But also, I think making that accessible for everyone who might not be there yet is a really
Mhm.
important step. And I praise you for that and thank you for that. Um, so, I've listened to your podcast, Healing in Your 20s, and you actually released an episode today called, which was based on bad habits, which I loved personally. And I resonated with this because as much as I'm doing the work and, we try and turn up every day the best version of ourselves, but, you know, the way that we are wired and the way that our neural pathways are going and have been kind of trodden that way for so long, it's so easy to slip back into those bad habits.
So
um, so I mean, I wanted to, because the audience may not have listened to that episode like I have, and I found it really insightful when you were just honest about some of the bad habits that you had. Can you talk us through some of those, and how did you go about kind of stamping those out and rewiring your brain to look at a new way of living?
Mm, I love that. Thank you so much for all your like nice words about my podcast. But yeah, so on that episode, I was really talking about, it was a little vulnerable moment. Also, I was like, okay, it's time to share all my dark secrets because, like, I also want my anyone who's listening basically to know that we're all human, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're a coach or a therapist or a psychologist. Like, we're all human. We all have bad days, and nobody's perfect as much as we would love to be, but perfect doesn't exist. We all have bad days, and I have days when I still go back to some of these bad habits, but the key here I feel like is having a plan to what to
Mm,
do if you do go back. So first of all, let me share some of my bad habits that I used to have. So the first one is probably the most like big one that I used to do a lot, and that is to compare myself with everybody. So I
mm,
used to compare myself with like people I saw online. I used to compare myself with like celebrities and all these people that seem to have it all together, that seem to be all these successful and beautiful in their own way, but unfairly like judging and comparing myself. So I used to follow people that did not look like me. I used to follow people that were way ahead of me in the game, but I
mm,
would unfairly judge myself. So the first thing that I had to stop doing was to like stop following these people. So I had to kind of come to the understanding that they don't care if I unfollow them, really.
mm,
And if it's not good for me and my mental health, then there's no reason for me to be putting myself in the position to feel bad while looking at something. So I was like, okay, that's got to go. So that was the first thing that I had to stop doing.
mhm,
And then the next thing that I did was like I stopped checking my phone the first thing I did in the morning. My mornings look something like this. I woke up and I was like, with closed eyes, I'm like trying to reach for my phone. And then I'm like, I get on the social media and 2 hours pass like nothing. And I'm like,
mhm,
oh my God, look at all these people doing all these amazing things. What am I doing? Again, into that cycle. So I was like, okay. I became aware of the cycle and I was like, what can I do to change this? And so I stopped using my phone in the morning. In the first hour, I try not to touch my phone. I go and do what I have to do. And basically, this helps me have the morning to myself and
mhm,
helps me really take it slow, not start the morning with like overstimulating my brain, but like just slowly, with my own thoughts, with my
mhm,
hearing my own voice and my own creativity. Because when I filled it with everybody else's ideas, I left no space for my own creativity to just thrive. So I was like,
mhm.
okay, that has to go.
Yeah.
And the same thing with like the night routine. So I put away my phone like an hour before I want to go to sleep because, again, it's overstimulating. I want to calm down. I want to just have a nice sleep without thinking about a million things. So yeah, that was like one of the habits that I had around social media and my phone. But
Mhm.
otherwise, I used to also watch a lot of like horror movies
Oh my God,
and
me
like
too.
crime podcasts. Right? I don't know
Yeah.
why they're so like captivating.
Yeah, they really are.
And I used to have them everywhere. You know how you watch one thing and then it shows up everywhere because you're
Mhm.
interested in it? They keep showing it to you. So I watched one crime like thing and then it appeared everywhere. And I ended up watching these all day. And want it or not, you still feel like all the emotions. You go through all the emotions while you're watching this. You get scared, you get sad, you get like worried. And I didn't want to feel these emotions, especially if I didn't have to, right? So if it's
Mhm.
happening in my life, fine. But
Yeah.
why do I do this to myself when I don't
Mhm.
have to feel it? Because it's
Mhm.
already hard enough to deal with these emotions when they're your own. But then
Mhm.
we call up on them. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm like repeating old patterns because I was like, well, I had a very chaotic home and it was never really stable. And I was walking on eggshells, and maybe watching these videos put me in that position again of like
Mm.
walking on eggshells. And I'm like, oh, wait, am I repeating these patterns? And I was like, okay,
Mm.
this has to end. So I unfollowed all of these accounts. I said, I'm not interested in every time they came up. And now I'm clean. Like they're not
Yay.
coming up for me anymore.
Mhm.
And I don't feel like I'm missing out anymore, also.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
not like I was like, I'm not addicted to it anymore, which is great. So yeah, and the same thing about news. So I used to watch the news as if, it's something really, really important that I had to do. I had to know everything. But also the same thing. I'm a very sensitive person and I soak up energy really, really easily. And when I watch the news, which is usually, I mean, like news, like what is news now, anyways? Everybody puts their own story in there and their own narrative. And I realized that if I really care about something and if I want to know about something, I can do my own research and give my
Mhm.
own judgment. I don't need
Mhm.
somebody to like spoon feed me their own narrative of the
Mhm.
story. So I was like, okay, that's not happening because
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm not doing any good by adding to the suffering that I'm seeing. If
Mm.
I suffer, it's not going to make them suffer less. If I'm
Mhm.
sad and crying here for their loss, it doesn't make their pain go away. It just adds to the whole suffering,
Mhm.
and the only way that I can help is by taking care of myself,
Mhm.
by being, so then I have the capacity to support them. Either that is like mentally, support them through volunteering, charity, or financially, right? That's how we can give.
Mhm.
But we can't give from an empty cup. So I'm like, okay, that has to go.
Yeah.
But on a more personal note, some of the bad habits that I used to do was like, I used to people please. Well, I think a lot of us go through that a lot. And I had to stop people pleasing altogether. I had to start putting my own needs first, prioritize myself and my needs. And then also, I was like, I didn't let myself rest. And I remember you were talking about this also. So I wasn't letting myself rest at all. And I would make myself feel guilty for resting.
Mm.
And that was a bad habit that I got into a lot of the time. And I was like, okay, this has to stop.
Mm.
Because the thing is, this is also a cycle, right? When you don't rest and you work on overdrive, the quality of your work suffers. So you don't work as good. But because you don't work as good, you start to ask questions like, what's wrong with me? And
Mm.
then you start to make yourself feel bad for not working well when you're tired. And
Mhm.
then all of this happens because we don't let ourselves rest. If we just rested and we gave ourselves that guiltless, shameless time to just rest, we would feel better and work better. So I had to
Mhm.
kind of reprogram my mind to understand that. And I still have to remind myself this every time I try to rest. So it's not like I didn't master it yet, but I'm on the way. I'm on the way.
Mm. I think that's
But
so important though, because it's like the hustle culture is everywhere, you know, and if you want to be a
yeah.
success, you need to keep going, keep at it. But I think what's really nice over the last kind of year or so, people are speaking more honestly about the fact that you can't burn the candle at both ends. You do need to rest, and as you say, the quality of your work is going to be sacrificed if you do not rest. So
Mhm.
yeah, and also the news point, by the way, my husband and I were exactly the same, because there was a point where I was getting so kind of down one route of news, and then my family were another route of news, and then, you know, at the dinner table we would be having full on arguments, and it got really heated, and I just thought, well, if we've got these views, you know, no matter what, I now the algorithm online knows that that's my view. I'm just going to see more and more articles backing that up, and they're going to see more and more articles backing them up. And then so we can't have a, you know, impartial discussion about this, because it's so backed up by so many different articles that are all geared up to that specific thing. So, you know, we made a conscious decision that actually, and like you, I'm very sensitive. I very much pick up on energies, people's energies, things that I'm consuming, Instagram, TikTok, trash on TV. It very much, you know, it will be like in there after I've consumed it. So I think making that conscious decision, and like sometimes I always have guilt about making that decision, you know, like, am I not, you know, I guess wary enough or understanding enough of the world? But as you say, and we've had these discussions, you can contribute to the world in different ways, whether that is with volunteering, whether it is with helping people through mental health. And, you know, as for you, you're helping women to develop themselves. And I'm hoping with the podcast, this will help people to develop themselves as well. So yeah, so I honestly, when I listened to that today, I was just like, tick, tick. I
Yeah,
totally, I
I'm so
feel you.
happy. Yeah, we're so alike. Oh my goodness. Yeah. That is
um,
totally true. Yeah. And for sure. I think we covered most of everything that I mentioned. Um,
no, that's, I
uh,
mean, that's, I think the audience at home, if listening, maybe this is a good task. So, you know, without being too negative surrounding it, but, you know, if you really think about it, what are the bad habits that might be plaguing your life right now? You know them. Like, what are the things that afterwards, you know, buzz your energy when you feel like really lackluster, you feel a bit anxious after? What are those? And, you know, get in touch with Malika on her socials and let her know, because I'm sure she'll be able to kind of help you there
yes,
as
we'll
well.
talk about it. We've
um
all been there.
Exactly. We're with you. I mean, we're not perfect by any means. We're still
Yeah,
working it out. Um,
for
so
sure.
when you're working with your clients, what would you say are your main goals with them? Or are you kind of, you know, speaking with them about what they want in their lives and then helping them to get to that path?
Mm. Okay, well, first of all, my goal with working with my clients is to create a safe space for them, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my clients, they come to me because they have no one else that can listen to them without judgment, without shaming, without guilting, where they can be their true self and be accepted and be really understood and heard. So this actually is like the most, I would say, like the easiest thing we can do for humanity, right? To just
Mm-hmm.
listen without judgment. But we don't get that a lot from a lot of people, right? And we don't have that. We don't have the people around us that can give us that, which is sad. But also, I feel like it's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
The more we educate ourselves, the more we educate our children. I'm sure this will change in the future. But yeah, so my job is to hold that space for them so they can come, they can talk, they can spill, they can release. And all I'm doing is just holding their hand while they do this, while they rediscover themselves, and maybe just ask the right questions that get them to answer their own questions. You know, they have all the answers, but they don't have someone who's asking the questions. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is my duty, but also what I always make sure that I do with my clients is I teach them the tools and the techniques that they need to not be dependent on me and not be dependent on anyone else. So what I want my clients to get by the end of our sessions, basically my program, is to be able to handle their emotions and handle their challenges face on by themselves, because I have equipped and taught them all the techniques and all the tools they need to use in order to be able to do that.
Hmm.
So they don't like need or depend on anyone else. Of course, it's great to ask for help when you really need it, but I'm talking about the minor things that they can now handle by themselves because they feel confident enough to do so.
Mm. And what would you say in terms of the tools that they are, you're kind of working on? Would that be looking at, I guess, belief systems, childhood work,
Yeah,
unpicking those areas
for
and
sure.
unlearning some things that can be blocking them or holding them back?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like finding the limiting beliefs that are in place, right? Finding what kind of patterns are being repeated again and again, and finding the core of those patterns. Like, why are they being repeated? Going back
Mm.
and healing that inner child, because I feel like everything can be connected to the inner child. If you listen to my
Yeah.
podcast, yeah, at some point, I always mention something about our inner children because they drive a lot of the stuff that happens in our life, whether we realize it or not. And I love working with the inner children of my clients. And I feel like we see the most shifts happen when we do so. So, yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's also something I've been delving in quite extensively as well. And doing a lot of inner child work and kind of like reimagining situations where maybe I needed to be more supported, or I needed a certain kind of I don't know, person in that, and trying to kind of rewire my brain, and that has provided me with a lot of, I guess, yeah, like contentment. Just,
Yeah.
it's helped to unpick that, but I'm still very much working through it. And before, when people would mention inner child work, I was like, what is that? Is it just talk therapy? But actually, I think it goes so much deeper than that. And when you do, I know you do positive affirmations, and when you start to really kind of go into the subconscious a little bit and really delve into those, I think that's where the magic can start happening, and your life begins to energetically unfold, um which for me has been like an absolute game changer. So I know you talk a lot about manifestation, and I've been looking into this more myself. And I mean, the fact that I'm even sat in Italy today having this conversation with you is part of my, year-long manifestation that myself and my husband have been working on. Vision boards, and yes, we did the
Mhm.
vision boards, but also when I really started to, as just mentioned, unpicking old belief systems and decluttering my life with things that were distracting me or holding me back or blocking me, then it was like things just were magnetic and things
Mhm.
started to happen.
Yeah.
So so I wanted to ask about your experiences with manifestation. Where are you at with it right now as an individual, and like, do you help other people to manifest, or is it just
Mhm.
something you do on a personal level?
Mhm. Well, I always try and teach like manifestation as we go through my program with my clients, whether they want to learn it or not. I
Mm.
try and introduce it to them just to see where it lands, because we're always manifesting. We want it or not. It's like a law of the universe, just like gravity. We're always manifesting. If we do it intentionally or unintentionally, since the minute where we were born, we've been manifesting, but we
Mm.
haven't been intentionally manifesting, which means that we weren't really in control of anything that's happening to us. And which is why sometimes we attract things we don't really want because of our old programming and our trauma and just our old belief systems that don't work for us anymore.
Mhm.
And I also think that, just like you said, when we start to go back and we start to work with that inner child, we start to work with our traumas, that channel, or how do I say, you kind of like remove the dust from the
Mm,
mechanics and it starts to work better. That's a way that I can put it. Or
mm,
I love using metaphors. And let's imagine you're standing where you are right now and your manifestation or like the future version of yourself, your goals are on the other side of the road. And you want to walk to the other side of the road, but you keep falling. You keep tripping on your shoelaces and you fall, you look back, you look at your shoelaces, but you don't tie them. You get up, you take another step and you fall again, you know? How long is it going to take for you to get to the
mm,
other side? It's going to take
mm.
a long, long time.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is every time we fall, we have to tie our shoelaces. We have to make sure it's really, really tight, and then look forward and look at the second step that we have to take. Just that step. Not looking forward to the road, not looking back, but just like the next step we have to take and just believe that we're going to get there. You know,
Mm,
release the expectation, release the how you think everything should be, how you think everything should work out, because our brains are not wired to know that kind of stuff. We don't know that.
mhm,
And when we try to know that, we tire our brain out and then we get overwhelmed and anxious and stressed out. Like, why isn't it working the way that I think it should work? Right. But the
mm,
thing is, we don't know. We don't have the ability to know. But all we
mhm,
have to do is trust the process and continue working with passion, with our passion, right? What we want, whatever we do best, do it to our best ability and just keep going. And every time you fall, and you will fall, and it's okay, but tie your shoelaces every time you do. See where you have work to do, see where you have healing to do, just to make sure you take more steps without falling, you know, and get to
mm.
your manifestation quicker,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because when you kind of describe it in that metaphor, like for me visually in my mind, that makes so much sense because, I've seen so many patterns throughout my life that I haven't realized until now at 33 that have actually occurred maybe three times, and quite big patterns and quite large chunks of time which I've not wasted. It's everything's been, got me to this stage where I
Yeah.
am now, but I'm like, wow, well, that was quite an obvious pattern, and then the next pattern happened and the next cycle. So obviously I didn't tie my shoes for a really long time.
Same with me. Like we all come to this in the best perfect timing, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like that as well because I think as well, when you start on this path and you start kind of unpicking the stitches that have been wound so tight, you're like, oh man, I wish I kind of done this 5 years ago, or why didn't I think about doing this 10 years ago? And then you're like, okay. And as you say, I think that's comforting for me to hear, and hopefully the listeners, if you're just starting to tap into this work, now is the right time for you. So don't worry.
Yes.
um, so I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I listened to another one of your podcasts where you were talking about comfort zones, fear, and that's something I very much am somebody who I love to do new things. I get very bored and my energy's stagnant. I'm a Sagittarius. I'm not sure if you're into star signs, but I'm very much a free spirit. But the thing is, once I'm doing it, that's when the fear steps in. It's like something that I've wanted for so long and it's coming, it's given to me. The universe has said, here you go. And then I'm like, ah, you know?
Yes.
So what would be your kind of tips for your clients or anyone who
Mm,
is starting their kind of journey with stepping outside of that box and finding out who they really are, and finding out their inner essence, what's going to make them happy in
mm.
life? What would be your tips for getting through that fear?
I feel like well, it feels to me like you the fear is not stopping you, right? You're
Hmm.
getting what you want, but the fear is actually coming in after, right?
Yeah.
So why does this happen? Because our body, we're not used to that next level of wealth, of success, of love, whatever that next thing is for you. We're not ready for that up level, right? We're not used to it. Not about readiness, it's about being used to it. It's out of our
Mm,
comfort zone. Growth is always going to be out of our comfort zone, and we have to just accept that. And we have a very like instinctual fear of the unknown, which is also something that we have to accept and live by because it's not going anywhere. But what I help my clients do when we do like when we work together, stuff starts to shift, okay, in their lives. They start to manifest things. They start to be like, oh my God, life is so great. And then they're like, oh my God, what if it stops? What if I
mm,
lose everything? What if tomorrow I wake up and it's all gone? Or what if everything goes downhill? Or they have so many fears that come up with that next level of success. But what I make sure that we do at this time is to get them used to that new norm. So get them used to that next level being their new norm,
mhm,
earning 10K more being their new norm,
mm,
living in, I don't know, this amazing mansion be their new norm. And how do we
mhm,
do that? We need to calm our nervous system. So our body, it holds so much energy and so much emotion. And that is why I love like doing EFT. EFT tapping, if you know, it's basically tapping on these meridian points on your face and your body that help unclog this blocked energy and
mm,
let it just flow through your body. And when we are getting used to that next level, we want to make sure our body feels calm, our body feels
mhm,
at peace.
mhm,
Because if your body is at like, in a fear response, like fight, flight, or flee, or whatever it is, right? It doesn't feel good. It's in survival. You can't even celebrate your manifestation. You can't even celebrate what you did because your body is like, oh my God, we don't know this. This is all new for us. What if this happens? What if that happens? And at that second, what we have to do is we have to sit down and we have to just reassure our body and ourselves that this is safe now. This is the new norm now, and we're safe. And earning 10K more is now safe for us. It's very usual. It's good. It's great. And maybe ask yourself like questions, leading questions to see if you have any limiting beliefs now that you're here. Like, what
mm,
bad thing happens if I live in Italy now, right? What
mm,
bad thing happens if I earn 10K more?
mhm,
So, and then these answers will come up and maybe they will shock you or not, but then you just got to journal it out and really think about it and tap through. So,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally, I feel like yesterday I had some really like amazing news, and a really exciting new venture. And I was like, it's something I've been wanting and manifesting for a really long time, but the kind of celebration almost evaporated after half an hour because quite instantly I was like, oh my God, can I do this?
Yeah.
So it's all of those pressures that you put on yourself. But I think, as exactly as you said, I was like, okay, this is obviously like fight or flight coming in. My nervous system is trying to play tricks on me right now. And let's just take a breather. I've been doing some kind of self-worth manifestations and also meditations and deep imagining this afternoon. And it's really helped me to just be back in my body and be like, yeah, of course I can do this. This is exactly what I want. And this is where
Mhm.
my life has been leading. And I think as well for any listeners out there, I hope that, you know, if anything good does come into your life and you do feel really scared about that, that's okay. But, as Malika said, there are ways to kind of calm your nervous system down. And I'd like to hear more about EFT then, because this isn't something I
Mhm.
have spoken about with anyone on my podcast yet. So yeah, I mean, if even if you could give us a few kind of like, because this is going to be on video as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So for anyone who's had something great happen and then instantly they start to feel a bit anxious and the nervous system is kicking in, what would be the kind of points that we could do at home to try and
All
calm
right.
ourselves down?
I have to take my glasses off for that.
No.
So basically, whenever you feel a sudden burst of emotion, right? So I use this mostly to release emotions. So let's say, what is an emotion that you want to release, for example, Emily?
I would say I have quite like worried, anxious energy sometimes, I'm a
Okay.
bit, yeah, that's probably an
All
emotion
right.
I would say.
All right, great. The first thing is we have to see if we can tell what emotion this is. So it's great that you already know what we're going to work with. Basically, what you do is you identify the emotion, and then we start with the karate chop point, we call it. And we kind of like set the tone for the tapping, right? So we say, all right, I may be feeling really anxious right now, but I still love and accept myself,
Mhm.
right? Even though I feel so worried right now, I deeply love and honor myself. And then after this, we start to tap on different points on our face. So this is
Mhm.
where I tap. So
Mhm.
between your eyebrows, just slightly tap. And then on the side of your eye, and then on your cheek, like this, where you put your highlighter. And then I do it on like my collarbone and on the top of my head. So all of these points are basically from like
Mhm.
Chinese acupressure,
Mm.
and it is kind of like combined with modern psychology, and they made these points to just help release pressure. This is used to let go of stress, of anxiety, even, I mean, like it is a scientific based method. Like there are papers written on this, and
Yeah,
doctors use it
I'm
to
yeah,
treat
100% in.
patients with PTSD and other
Wow.
like serious problems. But we can use this on an everyday with yourself as well. But the most important thing is to kind of go through these points, validating the emotion, and then telling yourself that it's okay to feel anxious, and it's okay because, I love myself anyways, right? Just to validate a second. And after we
Mm.
validate and we accept the emotion of anxiety, of worry, and we understand like what message it's trying to send us, because our emotions are messengers, right? There's a reason why they come up and why they want to be heard, like little kids nagging on you, like, pay attention to me. So all they want to do is like be paid attention to, right? So we're going to pay
Mm.
attention. We're going to be like, okay, I hear you. I see you. But then we're going to try and trick our brain to change that, right? So give ourselves reasons why it's okay for us not to feel this way. So maybe it's okay for me to release this anxiety because I can totally handle this, right? I
Mhm.
have proof that I can handle this. I am good enough and I am worthy. And basically, we say these affirmations along with the tapping to just like be like a pattern interrupt as well. So your brain is like, what is happening? What is
Mm.
this girl saying? Like, she never says this, and all of a sudden she believes in herself. And this helps like you form new neural pathways in your brain and confuse your brain from taking the usual route to feeling,
Mm.
oh yes, I'm anxious, I won't do this, I'm a loser, whatever, imposter syndrome, to taking a new neural pathway that you get to create. You get to say whatever you want here and be like,
Mm.
okay, I am worthy. I can do this. I am strong enough. I am smart enough, and
Mm.
create that new neural pathway. And the more we do it, the better we get at it, and the better the results are, basically.
Mm. Well, yeah, I'm going to be doing that way more. And I mean, I have acupuncture with a Chinese doctor who I have that weekly, and I absolutely am obsessed. And he is just fantastic. And yeah, I'm really interested in the meridian points in, all of this kind of area anyway. So I definitely will be doing so. Is it EFT? And what does that stand
Yes.
for?
Emotional freedom technique.
Oh, okay, brilliant. I'm going to make a note of
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Yes.
Um, and so, yeah, anyone at home as well, EFT, if you're working through some emotions.
Yes.
Um, so I know that we've spoken a little bit about bad habits and how you've got those out of your life, but what is your routine now for success? So, what does your
Mm.
day look like? Because, you seem to have pivoted quite extensively from the girl or person that you were. How many years have you been on this new path?
Oh, I've been on this path for 2 years now only, so I'm still a baby.
Yeah, me too. Quite honestly,
uh,
since the pandemic. So I'm with you.
yeah, yeah, I'm still a baby. Like, I was living in my past programming for a long time. I call
Mm.
this if we're on a computer, I've been running on this really outdated programming. You know, when you don't update your software on your iPhone and it starts lagging? So
Yeah.
basically, that was me. I was lagging because my programming wasn't being updated, but the phone itself was like new. So I'm like, what is wrong? So yeah. And basically daily habits help you reprogram that. We think that we got to do these big things in order to change, to heal, but actually all we got to do is make the right choices every day. Just
Mm,
small, tiny, tiny choices. You don't have to change your career or do this big thing, write a book straight away or climb Mount Everest. You got to start with tiny, tiny things, and you will not understand how that will accumulate and turn into a mountain itself, right?
mm,
Consistency is key here, but
yeah.
also because we are women, and you are the perfect person to talk about this with, is we have to make sure that we work alongside our cycle, right?
Yes.
And this is something that I had to learn as well, because before I was just pushing myself no matter what. And I was like, why do I do so well some days and I'm so bad at other days? And I was so
Mm,
hard on my body. I was like, what is wrong with me? But actually nothing was wrong with me. I was just working with the rules that, like, we were working on a men's clock. I like to say, because they have 24-hour kind of like clocks, and we have a whole month of changing hormones, right? And
mm,
so first of all, I just want to put that out there, that for routines are not for everyone. I
yeah.
am a routine person. Like, I
Mhm,
thrive. I can do things really easily. Like, self-discipline and willpower are very easy. Like, they come easily to me. But for example, for my husband, he likes to switch it up from time to time. He doesn't like to do the same thing again and again every single day.
mhm.
So it depends on like who you are, and you got to make it work for you. So this is not the ideal like routine, but this is ideal for me, and you can take from it whatever you need basically. All right, putting that out there. Now my day looks something like this. So I wake up in the morning, and as I said, like, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning because my husband has to go to work and he goes to run every morning. It's such an inspiration, seriously. Like, I can't imagine myself running in the morning when it's like raining outside, but he still does it. Anyways, so I wake up and then I have my phone free hour. And in this hour, I just do my skincare, I do my journaling. So I write 3 pages in the morning every single day. So this is like
Mhm,
something I do religiously. I just sit there and I brain dump, write anything that
mhm,
I have on my brain on the paper. And after that, I read a book, and then we meditate together with my husband. And I do a little bit of tapping. And then we have our breakfast, which we never skip. And then he goes to work. And then I sit down to work. And even when I work, I have my own methods. So I use the timer method because it just helps me focus so much easier. So I put like
mhm.
40 minutes on the timer, and then I work for 40 minutes, 10-minute break, work for 40 minutes, 10-minute break, lunchtime. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and I try to move my body every single day as well. So either that be like walking outside when it's my like my period. I don't like to go hard on like gym workouts and stuff. So I just walk outside when I'm feeling low on energy. But when I'm feeling high on energy, I go to the gym. I do Pilates at home, yoga, stretching, literally anything to just move my body. I'm not very strict on what I will do,
Mhm.
but yeah, that depends on that as well. So I also try and read every single day around like 30 minutes. I put the timer again. So timer method is like my favorite one, because we're like, okay, I
Mm.
just have to do this for 30 minutes. That's all right. And I sit down and I read. But yeah, so this is what my day kind of looks like.
Wow. And then, I mean, since you've been doing this for the past 2 years, overall, do you feel like your whole life has changed? Has it been like a huge leap from where you were maybe mental health wise, confidence wise, belief wise? How do you feel in terms of, where
Mhm.
you were before you started all of this work?
I feel like I was always so I was always into self-development, right? Since I was
Mm,
16, I was
yeah.
reading, like I was watching The Secret and I
Oh
was like,
yeah, me
oh,
too.
manifestation, right? It was so popular at that time. So
Yeah.
anyways, I was like, yes. And I was like reading and all my life, like as much as I remember, I've been going to the gym like religiously. I was going to the gym, I was eating healthy, I was doing everything by the book, but one piece was missing, and that was mindfulness. And that
Mm,
was intention, right? So I was
mm,
doing all these things thinking, okay, if I do this, I'll be successful, you know? But
yeah,
now I do these things because it makes me feel good.
yeah.
I'm not in it for some kind of result. I'm not in it for like getting something at the end. It's not something that will end. It's like my life now, right? And I do
Mm,
these things because they make me feel good every day. And I'm moving my body makes me feel good. Reading makes me feel good. And I feel like just that switch of the mindset really changed everything for me. And meditation. I never
mm,
meditated before. And when I discovered meditation for the first time, it was something very new to me. I didn't get it. I was like, how can people just sit there and do nothing? Right. I was this overproductive, high achieving person. And I was like, no, I could be doing all these things. But I make sure every day, even if I don't do anything on my to-do list, that I meditate
mhm,
because it just helps me clear my mind. It helps my memory. It helps my focus. It helps my empathy. It helps my patience. It helps literally. It is the medicine for everything. I feel
mm,
like my head hurts, I meditate.
yeah.
I feel pain, period pain, right? I meditate on it.
Wow.
And I mean, this stuff really, really works. Which is why I love it. And I teach it to all of my clients because if I didn't feel like how amazing it was, I wouldn't want
Mhm,
to like share it so badly.
mhm. I think as well, like from just speaking with you today, I feel as though you're probably quite similar to myself in the fact that once you actually get the hang of meditating, you probably experience it quite profoundly and like a whole body experience.
Yeah.
And and I can even be in such a deep imagining meditation that I am, the first time I really got into it and I really kind of had this breakthrough moment was where I was like in my mum's stomach and I was like reborn again, and it was like it was insane. And
Oh,
like, and this was, by the way, completely sober. Like I'm not,
yeah.
there was nothing
That
else
was my next
enhancing this.
question.
Yeah. No, there was nothing enhancing
Oh,
it for you and an audience. But yeah, it was like, I think I was just feeling it so intensely, and my body really
yeah.
needed to go through that process again
Yeah.
and almost to unlearn and yeah, it was really intense and it was really incredible. So yeah, for anyone else out there who maybe hasn't tried meditation, and maybe you're like Malika where you think, oh, actually, it's not for me. I can't sit there. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Just keep at it. Keep at it because
Keep doing it.
yeah, it's so important, and there's a reason
Mm.
why people keep talking about it because it is
Yeah.
quite honestly incredible. Um, so I we're coming towards the end of the show now. But I wondered if there was, any, I know, like a best piece of advice you've ever received or your mantra for life moving forward since you've been on this new path.
Hmm. I think my best advice or my mantra would be to be the main character of your life. Be the main character, make decisions, like make choices. Like you need to, if you don't make the decisions in your life, somebody else will. This
Mm,
is the truth, right? If you don't make decisions, if you don't decide why you're waking up today, why you're doing the work you're doing today, why are you sitting here and doing this podcast, right? If you
mm,
don't make these decisions every single day, somebody else will. And you'll realize maybe one day too late that you're living someone else's life. You're living someone else's narrative. And I feel like the best type of advice that I can give is to be that main character, to
mm.
live your life as if like, okay, this is a movie and I'm the main character. How would I want this movie to go? What would I
Yeah.
want my character to feel, to experience, to do in life? and to make decisions that support that narrative, your own story.
Hmm.
And I feel like every time we feel maybe stressed out or just down, it's because we're missing a decision, right? We're maybe living for someone else. Maybe we're doing something to please someone else. We're doing something to prove ourselves to someone else. But in the end of the day, like, we have to make sure that whatever we're doing for us and us alone.
Mm.
And that would probably be my advice.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And I think, like, I don't know where I heard it. I think I heard it on another podcast, which was talking about, by the way, my soundtrack for the whole of Italy is My Life is a Movie, and it's just this Spotify one. And so I'm constantly the main character, which my husband and
Yeah.
friends joke about. But and it was this, I think it was Rob Dial. Do you listen to any of his stuff? He's like a
I
mindset
will
coach.
now.
He's
I
really,
will
you'll
now.
love him. He's really cool. This American guy. And he was talking about, if you actually say, like,
Oh,
we
yes, the
well,
mindset,
mindset coach,
mentor
my
or something.
method. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
mentor.
it.
Yeah, 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 I listened to him, yeah.
But he was saying how, like, say we're in a bad spot and we find ourselves like eating junk food on the sofa, and say you're watching, I don't know, for me it was like Legally Blonde. I just loved that film back in the day. If I was ever sad, like, her ex-boyfriend or whatever said to her she couldn't be a lawyer, she was like, you know what, I'm going to show you I can be a damn lawyer, and she did it. And so he kind of was just saying, imagine if you were the main character of your own movie and everyone, all the audience are watching you and you're slumped on the sofa and they're like, come on, Malika, come on, Emily, get up,
Yeah.
you can do it. And sometimes I'm like,
Yes, yes, yes,
when
yes.
I switch, I mean, sometimes it takes a big switch to do that. And like, obviously, there are still down days and stuff. But yeah, I love that. And I really resonate with that, because being the main character of your life, well, who else is going to be,
Exactly. If not you, then like who's gonna play you, right? But also I want to add to that just before we go.
Yeah, no,
A
course.
question that you can ask yourself
Mm,
when becoming that main character in your own story is, what would my highest self do, right? What would me in the future, who has already achieved everything that I do want to, like, what would they say to this? So, for
mm,
example, let's say waking up in the morning, right? You either want to snooze or you have to wake up. So then you ask yourself, okay, so my current self wants to snooze, but the second person I want you to ask this question to is that future version of yourself. What would they say? Would they say
mm,
snooze and sleep, or would they say, hey, get up? We have
mm,
an amazing day forward and we're going to do this, right? And then you listen to the second voice because you've listened to the current voice and it got you to where you are now. But if you want to move forward and become someone else, you're going to have to make different decisions. And which is why it's great to ask a question from a different perspective, because that's exactly
mm,
what you need right now.
mm. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. And I think I'm just kind of thinking of myself where situations I can answer that, ask myself that. And I also think I definitely want to do the 1 hour without my phone in the morning, because like I kind of got really good at, it's really easy to slip back into it as well, by the way. So you can like
So
have a really good month where you're like, oh yeah, I'm so phone free, and then all of a sudden you're like back in it. And I think I
Mhm.
realized on, being out here in the mornings, I've been checking it again, and I've kind of got into that doom scrolling for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, oh no, I've wasted that time. So yes. So I am gonna definitely, I really am glad that you've said that's so great for starting your morning. And so to finish up on, I mean, I think over the past year or so, I have gone through a lot of feelings of like being stuck. And almost like you're trying to do all these right things, and you're, starting a creative endeavor, whether it's recording a podcast like you or I, or whether it's, I don't know, starting an Etsy store and making your own like crafted earrings or something like that. And you are really putting yourself out there, but you feel stuck, you feel blocked. Um, for anyone out there at home who might be feeling like that, or is putting themselves out there and they're feeling like they're not seeing the results yet, what would you say for those people?
I would say get a coach. No,
Yeah.
I'm like 100% serious. It doesn't have to
Mm,
be me. It doesn't have to be like anyone that I know. Just get a coach, someone that
mm,
resonates with you, someone that has done what you have done. A coach is not somebody here that, I mean, hopefully a good coach is not
yeah.
someone who's here to just take your money. These are people who are like, which kind of like celebrity do you know that doesn't have a coach, right? Or
Mhm.
which athlete doesn't have a coach? Which like high achieving gold medal earning athlete doesn't have a coach? All of them have coaches. And there's a reason for that. You need to learn, you learn faster with a coach, with a teacher, with a mentor, right, than
Mm,
you would by yourself. Of course I could say get like self-help books, journal, do all that stuff, but like the best way to get out of that stuck energy, and something that I had to understand and invest in myself, like it was the biggest investment I ever did, like for myself in the beginning of my healing journey, was to invest in a very, very good coach. And I do not like regret a penny of it. And I made that money back like tenfold since then. So that's not even an issue, right? But just that initial investment to see yourself and be like, okay, I value my time more than my money. So I
mhm,
was like, that's why I will get a coach, because I would rather learn from somebody who's done this for 7 years, right? Than go through that all by myself right now. Why should I do that if there are people literally there whose
mm,
job it is to get me unstuck, whose
yeah.
job it is to make me feel better? And a metaphor that I love for this as well is, for example, if somebody was like, you can probably clean a window really well, right, Emily?
Yep,
you
I
can
hope
you can
so.
you can clean a window really well, but if you hire a window cleaner, how well are they going to do the job? They're going to do
Mm,
it quicker, and they're going to do it much better than you and
mm,
I could have
mhm,
washed that window, right? We would
mm,
have taken hours, but
yeah.
they have all the equipment, they have all the experience, they have all the knowledge, and they'll do it so much better because they're being paid for it as well,
Mhm,
right?
yeah.
So that's how I view coaching. So this is a person there whose job it is to make me feel better. Are they going to do a better job at it, or am I going to do a better job at it, right? A
Mhm,
person who's this is not my job and I don't get paid for it. How much is that motivation there to make me better? And
mhm,
so for 100%, I would say work with somebody, anybody, get help,
mhm,
because like put that ego aside of, I'm a self-sufficient, I can do it by myself. No, we're a community. We're here to help each other.
yeah.
So yeah, 100% get a coach. But again, like if you cannot get a coach right now, I would say surround yourself with success, surround yourself with podcasts, surround yourself with people who you want to be like. Only get advice from people who are living your dream life, and journal. Journal, journal,
Mhm,
journal. Journaling is like self therapy, self coaching. It's the best thing ever.
mm. Yeah, okay. Well, I 100% agree with that. I got a coach maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and it was my whole kind of life has changed since that moment. So I 100% agree with that. I vouch for that, and and it was, at the time, it felt like a huge kind of pot of money to part with, and it was, having to kind of pull it from all different areas, and it wasn't something that my husband and I necessarily had in that moment. But like you, would I go back on that? Would I take that money back? Absolutely not. It was the best self development. I've got all of those skills to take with me now moving forward. So yeah, so anyone listening, as both Malika and I have said, you don't have to do it straight away. But maybe it's, you start to save for that. If that's what you know that you need to get forward, you can maybe start saving. And in a year's time, maybe you can find that coach, and it will feel all the better because you have saved to invest in yourselves. So it's totally possible. And yeah, so it's been such an incredible conversation with you today.
Thank you so much, Emily. Yes,
I
likewise.
I hope
I
you've
had so
enjoyed
much fun.
being a guest,
Yes.
rather than a host. You've been an
This is
amazing
so
guest.
great. Thank you so much. Thank you. You've been an amazing host. You
Oh,
made me
I'm
feel
so
so
glad.
welcome and comfortable.
Yay. Oh, good. I feel like we have loads in common, and I just feel like I
Yeah.
get such energy from speaking to people who are walking a similar path, who are challenging
Same,
themselves.
same.
So thank you so much for your time today. I'll make sure I put all of your socials and website in the show notes. But from myself and the Moody Girl audience today, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you too. Thank you. Thank you. Virtual hugs.
Yay! Whoop, whoop. Well, take care and have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.